Welcome back, humor consumers, to the Life Happens, Laugh Anyway podcast. I'm comedian Tracy DeGraff.
I'm Catherine, co-host, bestie.
Wow.
What?
You said that so like
punchy.
I'm co-host and bestie.
Oh, I'm co-host and bestie.
There we go.
Oh.
Hi, co-host and bestie.
Hello.
Well, welcome to the table.
Oh,
to the podcast lab.
Glad to be here.
The pod lab.
Yes.
As we call it.
Yeah.
Well, we've had a great day today so far.
Yeah.
Beautiful fall day.
Beautiful September skies.
Yeah.
They're so clear blue.
They are.
Yeah. I mean, of course, we have some clouds and rain sometimes, but the September sky is so much more clear, I think, than the hazy, humid, July, August, sometimes June days.
Yeah, and we're recording this on September 10th.
Yes, the Queen of England has passed away. I have to say that.
Well, I was thinking more about September 11th.
I know you were.
Yeah.
Because I was too right before that thought. But then
tell our listeners about your connection with the Queen. Why are you so connected there?
We're related.
Oh, you are not. Lady Catherine?
I heard, actually,
yes,
that everybody is like a 50th cousin of another. Something like that. Okay. So, yes, I am. No, I'm not that I know of. But my mom is from England. That's all. That's it. But you know what? The British line, they're
the royals,
the monarchy, there's not an ounce of British in them.
Well, what are they made out of?
German.
Really?
Yeah. Well, the ones that were Queen Elizabeth's grandparents, they were German. And the German king had a cousin that was a czar in Russia. And that caused problems in World War I. Girl. Yeah.
Wow. Are they talking about all this on the news? How do you know?
I just know.
Oh.
And plus.
Whoops.
Well, and even the last name, Windsor, is not, that was changed.
Well, whose last name is that?
It's one they made up.
Well, whose last name is it? The Queen? Queen Windsor?
Yeah. But the family name. But their real last name is German. It's like a 3-part name, like Bumble. I don't know, something German.
Are you sure that's factual?
Girl. Yes.
Okay. I believe you. She just put her hands on her hips.
Yeah, I did, actually.
She's giving me the vibe
of
they're
German. There's not an ounce of English.
You look like a pterodactyl over there. Just saying.
Now, I would say that because Queen Elizabeth was born in England, but her folks, definitely her grandparents, were German.
But they were royal.
They were royal, but that's how the monarchy was back then. They married, like the queens and kings of other most European countries. Germans and Soviet Union or whatever it was. Uh-huh.
Well, and your mom was born and raised in England and then came to the United States of America as a young bride of a military man. Mm-hmm. Your dad.
My dad.
Yes.
Was born in Harvey, Illinois. Couldn't be more opposite
of England. He
smoked.
The Prince of Harvey.
Yeah. Well, to my mom, he was a prince at the time.
Oh, gosh.
Then they got to know each other.
And your English influence came because your mother, you took trips back to England.
My mom was yes. And my mom was very much for the working class. Mm-hmm. So you would think that she wouldn't have this torch for royalty and that she wouldn't be a monarchist, I think is what the word they use for people who support
the monarchy.
Yeah. But she did hold the torch. We had an entire china cabinet growing up, but we could not touch the stuff in there. And
I would imagine it's a sense of pride, a sense of patriotism in terms of this is my country, my home.
It is.
My people.
Right. Exactly. So
how does your mother feel now that the Queen is No longer.
Well, she's definitely very interested. In fact, it was funny because I just spent a whole week with her.
Yes.
As my sister was away, I stayed, and my mom and I watched. And several times we shushed each other.
Oh, you did?
Oh yeah, there were times where we're watching some of the news clips, and she'd shush me, I'd shush her. We'd both shush the dogs, and it's my mom. I'm amazed at the stuff that she does know and remember, because there were times she'd say, now the queen, as we're watching stuff, she always wore bright colors so she could be seen.
Oh.
And I thought my mom was just talking out of her you know what.
Mm-hmm.
But then eventually they did say, well, yes, the queen wore bright colors so that the photographers could get good pictures. She always made sure her hats were up and that her eyes were not covered, that her lipstick was bright so the photographers could get their pictures.
Wow.
And I thought, oh, well, check, Mom.
For those of you that are new to the Life Happens, Laugh Anyway podcast, Catherine's mom has Alzheimer's. And she's plugging away.
Yeah.
She lives with Catherine's sister,
Mm-hmm.
and her sister was on vacation, so Catherine was filling in as full-time caregiver during that period of time.
Right.
And then the queen passed during that time.
Yeah, it's bittersweet sitting there with my mom. I mean, I feel a little bit emotional talking about it now because I grew up going back and, going there, and then family from there coming our way, and it's just a way of life, and it's actually a whole era and chapter closed for many people, I think.
70 years.
Yeah, that's all. I feel like I can remember one of our family friends from England saying, I don't think we'll ever see a king in my lifetime. I remember
and it's unusual the way in which she acquired the crown or accepted the crown, or it was handed down to her.
Yeah.
And she was so young, and she lived long.
21.
96 years old. Was she 96?
96.
Yeah, so she lived a nice long life. Mm-hmm. And now it's King, what's his name? George? King George?
Yeah,
no.
He kept his name.
Wait,
no, it's
Charles. It's Charles.
And he kept his name. Some of those
what
kings.
What do you mean he kept his name? Some of them change it? When they become king?
Yeah, so King, so David became, David became Edward when he became king, but he wasn't even a king a year, I don't think, and then when he abdicated, and then...
Why did he do that?
I don't know why they do that.
We are down the English rabbit trail, and now I want to know, why would somebody change their name when they become the king?
Bertie, which was Elizabeth's dad, who was actually Albert.
Oh, I get it.
His name became King George, I think.
Okay.
When he became king. So when his brother abdicated, he had to become king. And even though his name was Albert, he became King George the 6th, I think.
I wonder if we have anyone from the UK that's listening to our words at this moment.
That dumb American. Jack. But I do know that they changed. In fact, it was in question whether or not Charles was going to do that.
My head is spinning.
Well, I always wondered, how come I can't retain their dang names when I was growing up?
Because they change them. That's why.
That's why, I know.
Wow. All right.
It's almost like one's christening name, maybe. You know how when people get christened, they have a christening name, don't they?
I don't know. Well, we're in the middle of it now. We're in the middle of it. Queen Elizabeth is passed. And
we're in the 10-day mourning period.
When is the funeral?
I don't think it's... When I read this morning, it wasn't set yet.
Oh.
I know they prefer to do a 10-day mourning, and then they've officially, or Charles did, made a bank holiday.
Okay.
I haven't had that. I guess it's very rare.
Oh.
But it will be.
They call it a bank holiday?
Yeah. So the funeral will be on a business day. And
everybody will be off. When they say bank holiday, does that mean everybody's off?
I'm assuming so.
You would think.
Yeah. I'm surmising that. Well, either that or the day of her passing is going to be a bank holiday forever. I don't know, but I do know that the funeral can't happen on a Saturday or a Sunday.
You know what amazes me as a full-blooded American, is our infatuation with royals, the American public, and their like curiosity, I guess. Maybe it vacillates between curiosity and infatuation, and we left them. We said, no, we don't want to be a part of your kingdom.
I think the difference is that was our ancestors, and they lived it. And the monarchy and all that was way different then. You know, they ruled. They didn't have a prime minister and, you know, diplomatic approach to politics.
Right. Well, they wanted freedom, Catherine.
Right. And it's different now. You know, they don't have to.
I would suppose you're right, because the British people are not subjects necessarily. They're subjects in name, but they have a lot of freedoms.
Even in the Commonwealth, they have their own prime ministers and things like that.
Let's move on. We are not supposed to be talking about this today.
Guess how long it's been that we've been...
10 minutes.
Yes, 10. Yeah. Almost.
All right. We're sorry. If you're just joining us for the Life Happens Laugh Anyway podcast, welcome aboard.
I just want to talk about the monarchy.
We talk about everything English.
That's all I want to talk about.
This is episode number 89, and the topic is not the monarchy. The topic is actually how to stop complaining.
Oh, is that what we're talking about?
That is what we're talking about today. How to stop complaining.
Good.
We're going to leave you with 3 or 4 takeaways. Okay? And we try. We're doing our best.
God.
Right?
We do try.
We try
I
to
want the
give
people
you takeaways.
to feel sorry for us.
What?
I do, because we try so hard.
I feel sorry for us. Should we start this over?
No.
All right, fine. Let me get through the takeaways.
Yes.
Don't feel sorry for us, friends. Number 1, why do humans complain? Catherine is going to bring us some information about that, why we complain as humans. That's takeaway number 1. And then takeaway number 2, why should we stop complaining?
Seems obvious, but it's
there
not
are
always.
There are some things that I learned
Science
in this research, like, you know, you don't want to be a big dummy, so stop complaining. Okay, number 3, how can we stop complaining?
That is the $1 million question.
It is. We're going to get to that. And then number 4, usually we give you 3 takeaways. Today there's a bonus takeaway. There's 4.
It's like part B of A, you know, A and B.
A, B.
Oops.
A, B, or number 4. How can we encourage others to stop complaining? It's a very big deal.
It's a delicate situation.
It is. And we have sponsors. Who are they, Catherine?
Puffin,
Who's
which are
that?
Kenny and Ron. Muffin and Pooh.
Our husbands.
Yeah. Shout out to them.
Yes. Thank you, guys.
Speaking of shout out.
Yes.
We're going to do a shout out for Mark Karstens.
Yes. Our friend and fellow church goer.
He said to me last Sunday, he's like, hey, he said, you guys just bring so much like joy. He said something along the lines of his wife, Janine, listening to us, makes her happy. She really enjoys it. And I felt good hearing that she feels good listening to us, and Mark sharing that with me. This was like
sweet?
A warm, fuzzy feeling plus encouragement. So thank you, Mark. Thank you, Janine.
And they're our neighbors, basically.
Yeah.
They're right down the street that way.
Oh, and they're joining our small group this year.
They are. They joined at the tail end of last year, and they're a stitch.
Yes.
Janine is hilarious.
Her laugh is contagious.
It is. And
Yes.
Mark just goes along with a lot of things. He kind of reminds me of my husband. You
Yeah.
know, like in terms of his personality.
Uh-huh.
And he has a lot to say, but I feel like he says he's a man of few words in a way.
Yeah. I would
We'll see. We'll have to get to know
We'll see.
him.
Right.
But Janine, she was our kid's kindergarten teacher.
She was.
Yeah, all those years ago.
Yeah. She was a sub for a while.
She was filling in for a maternity leave.
Mrs. Monahan.
That's right. You know, she's still teaching kindergarten. Mrs.
Monahan at
She
Green
is.
Garden? Or
Well,
whatever
Green
they call
Garden
it.
is no more,
I
but it's
know,
right
I
down
know.
the street by your house.
Yeah.
She's still a kindergarten teacher.
Well, good, because we lose a lot of the young ones.
I know.
She was young at the time.
Well, she looks the same.
Oh my gosh, it's 20 years later
I don't
now.
know. Yeah.
So she's not young anymore.
My kindergartner is getting married next month.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Oh my gosh.
It's the first one of my kids to get married.
Mm-hmm.
And
I feel, we could easily go down another rabbit trail.
I
but
know.
we won't.
Let's get to our topic. Jeez. All right. What say you, Catherine? Why do human beings complain? Why?
Misery loves company. That's why.
Duh.
Let's just say that. I just pulled that out.
I thought it was in your article.
It's not.
All
I
right.
just
Well,
said that.
what does the science say?
Well, we complain as a way of relieving stress. Kids complain about things all the time. Adults complain maybe about their boss or whatever. And, we're sometimes consumed with disappointments, frustrations, and angst. And then when we vent, as they say, we feel better. So that's one of the reasons.
A way of relieving stress.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
It's one reason. Are there more?
There are. There are more.
All right. What are they?
We complain because we can't solve the problem. So sometimes we have situations that can't be solved, or at least we can't see a solution. So then we get anxious or hurt. Sometimes we lack the skills to solve the problem. And sometimes we lack the courage to act on solving the problem. So you fall into complaining.
Yeah, and I would say I can relate to that personally in terms of, okay, you don't know what to do, so you're just like, what should I do? So you're just like retelling it. Here's what happened. I don't know what to do.
Right. And now, as you're saying that, I'm thinking about how, so we all have moments of like complaining like that, and I don't know if they're talking about, in this case, so I'm getting this from Psychology Today, I don't think that this is addressing a chronic complainer, because I can I might just edit out. I am laughing spontaneously for no reason. Anyway, we complain because...
Isn't it funny? When my laugh goes into that, like, hee hee hee.
Huckleberry Hound sound. Yes.
I can't help it.
Oh, man.
It's you can barely hear it, but it goes there.
Well, that's why it's so funny. It's half suppressed. Oh, excuse you. Oh, God.
You snorted.
This is the opposite of complaining. I really like this.
Okay, please continue.
What was I even saying?
I don't know.
I do know. It is the opposite of complaining.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh my gosh. We complain because we can't solve the problem. I said that already.
Wait, start over. We complain.
Yeah.
Because we don't know what else to do.
That's right.
It's a default.
It is I know what I was saying.
Yeah.
But I think, though, that this is just talking about complaining in general. But this is not really talking about the chronic complainer. But we will get to that.
Forget them. Well, that's not us.
Right.
Forget them.
Thank God.
But
I just want people... I complained earlier today. It was pretty bad. But, But but here's the thing. I realized it. And I knew I had to stop. And I knew, and you knew I had to stop. And I am trying to find solutions to this situation, this circumstance.
Right.
But so I kind of feel this way right now, like where it says that we can't solve the problem.
Right.
I'm just going to admit that right now. That's how I felt in the moment earlier today when I was.
And you can't solve the problem because you don't know what to do. You're not sure. Should you say something? Should you not say something? Should you do something? Should you not do something?
Right. It's very sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, it's hard to know what to do. I actually have already done something and said something.
It didn't work.
That
didn't solve it.
Deaf ears, basically. So that actually is a good segue. We complain because it's part of a family or relationship culture. Okay. So what that means is that sometimes we grow up in a family that the parents or whomever were the authoritative figure in one's lifetime were also complainers and negative.
Right.
Okay.
So you're picking up on their cues of this is what we do when things are going wrong. This is the way that we solve problems.
Yeah.
We complain about them.
Right. And some people are only surrounded by it's me and you and me against the world.
Yeah.
Okay. And and that's kind of the culture that they live in. Some people complain because they are depressed. I think that we don't always realize when we're dealing with someone who is complaining a lot, you do kind of think when it's a lot, like all the time, you do think to yourself, they must be really down. They must be really depressed. I think.
Well, but what you just said in point 1 was we complain sometimes because it's a default mechanism in terms of what we've been taught as how we process problems. Okay. So you have that. Then we also have a tendency to complain if we're depressed, right? But when we're in an environment where someone else is complaining, we have no idea if it's their default mechanism of how they roll, or are they going through a season of depression?
Right.
None of that really matters in terms of why to us. I mean, it probably does to the individual.
You mean to the listener?
Right.
Right. Well, right. So this is telling us as either a listener or even if we fall under these categories, this could help give some insight, like, oh, I guess I am depressed. I didn't really realize that.
Yeah. And depression is almost like, it reminds me of the frog who gets in the pot of water and then the heat just keeps getting turned up and the frog doesn't realize it and can't jump out then. Depression can start out in that way.
Yeah, it starts out as stress and anxiety, and it can many times turn into depression. Sometimes it's just temporary, but sometimes it could be much more dark than that.
Yeah, and
but it saps us of our energy.
I would say this about depression. If you who are listening to these words at this moment, including myself and Catherine and whoever hears these words, if you are struggling with any sort of depression, acknowledge it as soon as possible and then seek help, whether it be talk therapy, with a counselor and some kind of chemical therapy with a prescription drug medication. Seek help.
For sure. And I'm
professional help, not just like, I think
not off the street corner.
Yeah, no.
That's not what we mean. I'm saying this from experience. I mean, I'm on a prescription for depression. So, and I also had some therapy. I even had like some zapping on my head, and I thought, oh my God, what is this? But I do believe it worked. So,
yeah. And just one more thing about depression. Depression can lead to suicide. It can lead to something super serious.
Yeah.
The sooner you intervene with that disease, with that disorder, with that condition, however you want to describe it, the better.
Absolutely. Maybe we should put something in the show notes about ways that one could get help.
Yeah. I'm going to make a note of that.
Yes.
To put something in there.
And as you're doing that, I'll go on to the next bullet point. Another reason that we complain is because of, it's kind of like secondary gains. It's our primary way of getting attention. Like a child who is not as smart as his brother, athletic as his sister, whatever the case might be, wants to gain attention from the family or whatever the case might be. And complaining can be a source of, it's really negative attention. It doesn't say that here, but I know that it is.
But to someone who's craving attention, even negative attention is still attention. It's still, I mean, it's that way, like in the classroom with students who are like class clowns or troublemakers or whatever. They may not necessarily want to act out in a negative way, but they're just craving somebody to notice them.
It's the only, I think that sometimes it's the, perhaps that they've done it and then they realize, oh, I got reprimanded or I got punished for that. Well, that's attention, Right. But then sometimes it could be in the form of support or sympathy, whatever.
Yeah.
So, those are the main reasons why we complain. But I would sum it up as to say, this is me though, not on the thing. Misery loves company.
And what do we do about it? Segueing into our second takeaway.
Well, I do have some things about do's and don'ts. Should I read those?
Well, let's go into why we should stop first.
Oh, yeah.
Why? Why should we stop complaining? And then don't forget do's and don'ts.
Okay. Research. I'm just going to read this because it's really, really informative.
Where'd you get it?
It's called Talent Smart. And I believe that this is a company that Fortune 500 companies hire to get the best performance out of their employees.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So they're legit, and they get their information from, psychologists, psychiatrists, and studies,
All right. So science.
Mm-hmm.
And what say they?
It says your brain loves efficiency, and it doesn't like to work any harder than what it has to. So when you repeat a behavior, such as complaining, your neurons branch out to each other to ease the flow of information. So it makes it much easier to repeat that behavior in the future. It's easy, in fact, that you don't even realize you're doing it.
You're creating pathways. It's almost like the Oregon Trail when they created it with the wagon. That's what you should visualize right now.
Yeah.
If you want a visual or a metaphor to stick into your head about what complaining does, it's like a default.
Yeah.
For your brain, and it gets that wagon wheel into the rut of the Oregon Trail, and it is hard to get out.
Yeah, and it even says here you can't blame your brain. Who'd want to build? So the metaphor they use is building a temporary bridge. Like who would want to do that every time you need to cross a river or whatever? And it makes a lot more sense to construct a permanent bridge, right? Mm-hmm. So the neurons in your brain, they grow closer together, and the connections between them become more permanent. Scientists like to describe this process as neurons that fire together, wire together.
Yeah,
I think that
is
really telling of how, our brains are.
Stop for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
When we were just talking about why we complain, and we talked about, well, maybe your family of origin, that's just the way your parents rolled.
Yeah.
And your grandparents rolled.
Right.
It's a learned behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now you're an adult.
Mm-hmm.
You're 20 plus 35 years.
God. Help us.
How do you undo that?
There are ways. Yeah. We'll get to that.
Okay.
Yeah. But because I'm really going to go over, why we should not complain, because there's a lot more. It's really detrimental to your mental health and your physical health, because repeated complaining rewires your brain, like we said, to make future complaining more likely. Yep. And over time, you find it easier to be negative than to be positive, regardless of what's happening around you. So like, even if there's
times are great.
Yeah.
You're still complaining about it.
Yeah, because complaining becomes your default behavior.
Side note, this is why I hate politics. This is why when the news is on and it's a political channel, which they all are now, it seems like, I can only take about 5 minutes of it.
Yes, I keep trying to say that to my husband, who...
Hope you're listening.
Yeah.
Sponsor.
He comes home and he likes to tell me what's the latest on
the
news.
Political front.
That's right. And I take a deep breath because it gives me anxiety, because he dwells on the real negative stuff.
Yeah.
Yes. And today we sat down, and I was kind of telling you how he and I were talking when Ron showed up, and then he's like, Ron's here. She just got up and left.
Yeah.
But we were, at the time, we were discussing, he was telling me that he wondered if I knew that some of the news channels were saying that they're glad that Queen Elizabeth died and that they hope she suffered.
What?
Well, I was like, oh my God, why would they even say that? So he perceived it as, I didn't believe him that was said, but that's not at all what I meant. I was just in shock. And then I proceeded to say, where'd you hear that?
Oh, okay.
So then he tells me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it shouldn't even be repeated. They should. I mean, that's such negative news. So we go on about this negativity, and I'm like, Kenny, that's infiltrating your brain. It's constant negativity. Let's focus on something else.
Yeah.
Because after a while, and then I kind of told him. So when he walked in to tell me that, I was reading this about our brains and the way that the pattern develops of constant, negativity.
Complaining.
Yeah. And I just happened to be reading that when he came in, and I was telling him,
Okay. Side note, but goes along with this. That's why I'm saying it. If we are constantly listening, right, to that drum beating, whatever the drum is, no matter what political side that you associate with, identify with, vote for, I don't care. If you're constantly listening to it, you are going to be crazy. You are going to be, your brain is going to hurt.
Well, it's kind of like the saying, you are what you eat.
Yes.
I think about you are what you consume.
Think about, yes,
what
you
consume. You consume.
Yes, thank you.
So when Kenny comes home from work and he just vomits out,
all the stuff
he's repeating.
What he's consumed.
That's exactly right. And doesn't it say in the Bible something about really what defiles you is what comes out, not necessarily what goes in? It says that
garbage
somewhere.
in, garbage out.
Yeah. Right.
And be careful, little minds, what you see and what you hear and what you think and what you say. All those things. Sorry, side note.
We have many side notes.
Thank you to our sponsor, Puffin.
Yeah, thanks.
Anyway, go ahead.
Well, I do want to read all of this because...
Please do.
Yeah. So it says here, and here's the kicker. Complaining damages the other areas of your brain as well. So this is science. Research from Stanford University has shown that complaining shrinks the hippocampus. That's the area of the brain that's critical to problem solving and intelligent thought. And damage to the hippocampus is scary, especially when you consider that it's one of the primary brain areas destroyed by Alzheimer's.
Hello. Who wants to have that? Not me. Thank you very much.
Right.
So you're literally becoming a big dummy.
Yeah, you could say that.
If you continue to listen to other people complain and you complain yourself, you're shrinking your brain. Your brain is shrinking. Your hippocampus is shrinking.
Essentially.
This is science,
no,
people.
Of course, we're talking about chronic complaining. We're not talking about...
I know we're talking about chronic complaining, but this is what I'm saying, is that the more that we absorb these news channels...
It becomes a habit. Yes. Complaining is also bad for your health. So not just mental health, but also your overall health. When you complain, your body releases the stress hormone cortisol, right? And cortisol shifts you into a fight or flight mode, directing the oxygen, the blood, and energy away from everything but the systems that are essential to immediate survival. And one effect of cortisol, for example, is to raise your blood pressure and blood sugar so that you'll be prepared to either escape or defend yourself. So these things are getting...
And it makes you fat. Makes you fat. Cortisol is proven to make you fat. Yes! Cortisol.
I didn't know that.
It's the stress hormone that makes you crave sugar. And so it gives you your belly.
Oh.
Haven't you seen the commercials? Come on, Catherine.
Girl, no.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Bad cortisol.
Bad. It'll give you a heart attack, stroke, diabetes.
Oh, no. Oh, it does say that.
I told you.
Oh, my God. All the extra cortisol released by frequent complaining impairs your immune system and makes you more susceptible to high cholesterol, diabetes, heart disease, and obesity.
You know why?
It even makes the brain more vulnerable to strokes.
You know why? Because it makes you reach for the sugar. Because when
that's really it?
Yes.
Oh.
According to Tracy. Yes.
Okay. That's what I meant by doesn't really mean that.
Yes, because it's stress. And so then you reach for whatever it is that's going to alleviate stress.
Pasta.
Carbs.
Oh my God, Alfredo.
Alcohol. It makes you think, how can I stop this? How can I How can I alleviate this? Oh, right?
I guess so.
It doesn't motivate you to go jogging.
Right.
Or, or
some
do a
people it does.
triathlon. No, not cortisol doesn't.
Oh, no, not cortisol.
Well, that's what we're talking about. Stay with me, Catherine.
I can't. You're all over the place.
No, I'm not. I'm right here with cortisol.
It's supposed to be notes.
The complaining produces cortisol. Nobody likes cortisol.
Oh, yes. Bad cortisol.
And then
I got it.
when you get the cortisol thing going, you want to stop that. You want relief from that. It's a stress.
Yeah.
And so then you turn to these things that are not good.
Right. It all makes sense.
Okay.
It's not just you, it says. Human beings are inherently social. Our brains naturally and unconsciously mimic the moods of those around us.
Yes.
Particularly people we spend a great deal of time with.
Yes. You know what? Okay, wait, stop. Another side note. This is going to be a 4-hour podcast. No, think about this. What? If you go up to a baby, right? A human baby, and you mimic something. Like if you make a really sad face and you just like...
Yeah. And the baby does it.
Yes. Or if you go the
actually,
other way.
You know what that's called?
Ooh, what?
That's
mirroring.
Yes.
I knew that. I did my research.
You sure did.
I did.
Mirroring.
Okay.
Yes.
And these are things that are proven scientifically about the human brain.
Yes.
And you can prove them yourself by just taking any baby, any average baby.
Yeah.
Do a little test with the baby.
Yeah. It's called neuronal mirroring.
So the neurons in one brain are mirroring the neurons of the brains around them.
Yes.
Because they're looking for the pathway of least resistance.
Yes.
They're looking for a way to go, what should we do? What should we do? That's what we should do.
Yes.
Bingo.
All right. The flip side.
You look shocked that I would know that.
Maybe.
Okay. Continue.
The flip side, however, is complaining is a lot like smoking. You can, get secondhand
smoke.
Right. And you can suffer the ill effects of someone who's smoking.
It's so negative.
Yes. Complainers want people to join their pity party so they can feel better about themselves. That's true. That's why they say misery loves company.
Yes.
I mean, would you sit around next to someone who's smoking constantly and inhale like all their secondhand smoke?
I used to be forced into it by my family because my parents both smoked and my grandparents smoked. So smoke was everywhere back in the 60s and 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
And I didn't like it, but I had to endure it. But yes. Okay. So that's the question, is if you're around people that complain. This happened to me today. Okay.
Was it with me?
No.
Oh.
It was. No, Catherine, it wasn't you. It was earlier in the day, and I was at the gym.
Oh.
And I got into the
Oh, do tell.
I got into the hot tub after the gym. And somebody that I've never met.
Oh, okay.
And so they don't probably know about our podcast because right now only people that we've met know about our
soon
podcast.
This person will probably have a card in her hand.
Probably a plastic card. Here, do you hear about our podcast? Anyway, she was starting to complain about the gym.
Oh.
About the mold.
What mold?
I've never seen any mold on the shower curtains.
Oh, I've never seen. And I'm like,
I haven't seen it either.
Observant.
But she got into the hot tub, and I was having a great time in the hot tub, you know.
She came in.
Right. And I was, because I've got the hip problem.
Yeah. It's funny when it's the. I got the arthritis.
Everybody that I know that is my age or older, I am 56 years old. Anybody that I know that's my age or older, and some younger, like you, Catherine.
Yes.
We have issues.
Yeah.
And we have to deal with those issues at the gym.
We do.
And by the way, the class today was phenomenal.
Was it?
Yes.
Who taught it?
The ballet lady.
Oh.
It was fantastic.
Oh, was it?
Yes, the stretching.
Oh, very good.
Great.
Good.
And the cardio, and ballerinas are very disciplined. Yeah. Anyway, when we got into the hot tub, right, everybody's in there for a different reason. One's in for her shoulder. The other one's got a knee replacement. I've got the hips. So we're all in there together. And then here comes the new gal.
The mold lady.
Well, yes. She comes in and she starts right away talking about the mold. Oh. And I'm thinking about this podcast.
Every party is a pooper.
That's why we invited you, party pooper. I'm sorry, lady, who talked about the mold. I'm sure I'm going to give you a podcast.
Don't give her
card.
one.
Well, how am I going to know now? Because I give one to everybody.
Well, can't you identify her?
No, probably not. Because here's what happened. She said, because I was enjoying whatever, you know, of course, you know how that.
Socializing.
Well, not only the social aspect of the hot tub, but the hot tub that our gym has is like one of these therapeutic hot tubs. Mm-hmm. And those jets, I mean, you will forget a million problems.
Yes.
Because they just zap them away.
I don't know if I'll go in it at work.
Huh?
Kenny's almost done with our hot tub.
Okay. But your hot tub is not going to have the same.
Probably not.
Jet experience.
Okay.
So, yeah, you're going to go in the hot tub. Anyway, I'm sitting in there and I'm getting the hips and the hips are getting, you know, whatever they're getting. And the other lady's getting her knee and the other lady's getting her shoulder. And then in comes the mold lady. Mm-hmm. And she starts talking about, I can't believe this gym has got all this mold. And right away, because I'm thinking about this episode that we're recording right now about complaining.
Of course, yes.
And I'm done. And I don't want to hear it.
Uh-huh.
And I stand up and I say, well, I'm going to go check out that mold in those showers.
Did you really?
Well, I had to.
Oh, man.
And I went in the shower because I was done. And I did look at the curtains. There's no mold.
I have not, like I said, I'm kind of
picky.
Observant. Well, I wouldn't. Well, when it comes to mold, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
anyway,
you know.
I don't mean any harm to the mold lady, but I'm just saying that complaining about stuff like that, it does affect other people around you.
For sure.
Okay, let's move on because this podcast is going to take forever.
So what is the solution to complaining? We got a few things. But here, according to this particular website, it says there's 2 things you can do when you feel the need to complain.
Okay.
Okay. Now, we're going to get to the real core of how do you do this, because it says one is to cultivate an attitude of gratitude. And as soon as I read that, I'm like, well, how? How do you do that when you're super upset? Okay. When you feel like you're complaining, shift your attention to something that you're grateful for. And taking time to contemplate what you're grateful for isn't merely just the right thing to do. It literally reduces stress hormone cortisol by 23%.
23% is a lot.
Mm-hmm. So they found that research has shown that people who worked daily to cultivate an attitude of gratitude experienced improved mood and energy and substantially less anxiety due to lower cortisol levels. Just from that alone.
Wow.
23% is a lot in the big, scheme of things.
It is. We've talked about it before, but briefly tell our listeners about our top 10 list.
Yeah, we have, Tracy and I have a, we call it our grateful list.
We call it our 10.
Or we'll nickname it our 10 because it's 10 things we're grateful for. And sometimes, like when you're having a bad day, it's even more of a highlight because, even if you're struggling to write something down, it could be the comfort of your sofa or your socks or the fact that your air conditioner turns on when it's supposed to. So we do that. We have this practice every day. And it literally, I believe 100% has changed my life in the way that I think daily because, of course, I have very bad days. I had a big issue today.
And how long have we been doing that, Catherine?
I think it's like 10 years or 11.
It's more than that. It was 2011, and this is 2022.
So 11 years.
11 years. We've been doing that pretty much daily for 11 years.
It's funny because we started out and we still do, mostly in the evenings because that's when the day is complete.
Right.
But, now I take this medicine because
restless leg
I got
syndrome.
restless leg, and I got
So you gotta do your 10
toe.
before the rest.
I'm like, I have got to get this in before the medicine starts to take effect.
That's funny.
Yeah. Okay.
But the thing is, I mean, I guess the encouragement to our listeners would be, over the course of 11 years, I know that there have been really rough times, rough seasons that we've both experienced.
Yes.
And in spite of those difficulties, we can still find something to be grateful for.
Actually, the whole reason that was born was because we were both in a period of difficulty. Anyway, the way I remember it is that I said to you something like, well, at least we have this. It was something, something small. And I said, well, at least I have this, and I'm grateful for that. And then you said, why don't we do that? Why don't we write what we're grateful for every day? And then it just became a thing. It
was sort of spawned after the David Letterman daily top 10.
Was it?
When he used to, well, I mean, that's why we came up with 10. Because as I recall, of course, now it's hard to remember because it's been so many years, but I said, why don't we come up with our top 10 things that we're grateful for? Because that was something that I remembered, that David Letterman, the comedian, did a top
Late
10.
Night, yeah.
He did a top 10 thing every day.
Yeah, because you are the one that said, let's
do 10.
list 10. And so I said, well, yeah.
Yeah, let's do it. And then we didn't expect that it would be a lifetime thing. We just thought, we'll do it today. All right. And then we continued.
I remember saying to you so many years ago, like, if this becomes a burden, we don't have to do this. But I know that we both look forward to it.
And it is an effort, because you have to take effort.
Oh, you do.
You have to take effort to stop for a moment and contemplate and think about what are you grateful for in your day. Oftentimes in our top 10 list, in our gratitude list, it's things like the sun was shining today.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful weather day. Our needs are met. Our husbands are safe.
Exactly. It could be something really small, like the dishwasher worked.
Yeah, clean sheets is a fun one. Clean sheets
is a fun one.
Cozy bed, comfortable home, all these things.
Right. And then it could be something, bigger and more, I guess you could say, right home worthy. But it doesn't matter. It's a practice, and it's a game changer.
It definitely is. So we encourage that.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, this says the second thing you could do, and only when you have something that is truly worth complaining about, is to engage in solution-oriented complaining. So think of it as complaining with a purpose. And when you do that, solution-oriented complaining, you should do the following. Have a clear purpose. So before complaining, know what outcome you're looking for. If you can't identify a purpose, there's a good chance you just want to complain for its own sake, and that's the kind of complaining you should nip in the bud.
Okay, again, stop. When you talk about an outcome, know what outcome you're looking for. When I think about an outcome, I think about, what am I going to do? What am I going to say? What's going to change as a result of this, blah, blah, blah.
Or how am I going to respond?
Okay.
And start with something positive. It may seem counterintuitive to start a complaint with a compliment, but starting with a positive helps keep the other person from getting defensive. For example, like before launching into your complaint, maybe at a restaurant, poor customer service, you should say something like, I've been a customer for a very long time and I've always been thrilled with your service. Okay, so that's what that says. I'm just going to say, though, I think with people you're close to and family members, that's extremely annoying and off-putting to some people.
I don't know. That they call that something. They call it like some kind of a sandwich, positivity sandwich or something. It's basically putting on the bookends positivity and putting your negative thing in the middle, like an Oreo cookie.
I think some people know that you're going to respond like that. I think that they expect it. If they know you and it annoys them, and I think you have to be able to gauge that, because a calm, if they're fired up,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're coming at them with this very calm and annoyingly peaceful approach is annoying to the person who's worked up. I'm just saying.
Okay. Wait. Typically in human communication, energy is met with energy.
I know it is.
So if you come at me with this energy, typically my energy is going to meet your energy. But the diffuse is to bring it down a notch.
Totally. It absolutely is. But you have to be able to gauge when you know that the other person is actually going to be turned off by that.
You can't control that.
You can't, but you can't if you know that your calmness is
Do it
going...
in a text. Just text them.
Okay, let's move on. The next one, be specific. When you're complaining, it's not a good time to dredge up every minor annoyance from the past 20 years. Just address the current situation and be as specific as possible. Instead of saying your employee is rude to me, specifically say what that employee did or whatever that was rude.
Specific communication is hard.
Yes.
It's hard for everybody. Husband and wife, hard. It's hard to be truly specific and honest about, like what annoys you. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, especially if you're like passive aggressive
or normal.
Or normal. Yeah.
Because you don't want to rock the boat.
I think everybody has to have a degree in some kind of psychology just to function. Jeez. End on a positive. If you end your complaint with, I'm never shopping here again, the person who's listening has no motivation to act on your complaint. In that case, you're just venting or complaining with no purpose other than to complain. Instead, restate your purpose as well as your hope that the desired result can be achieved. For example, I'd like to work this out so that we can keep our business relationship intact.
Here's the problem with what you're saying. Where is this coming from?
Girl, this is coming from psychiatrists.
All right.
With PhDs.
Here's the problem.
What?
When you're talking about customer service and complaining to them, it's a totally different ballgame than talking about complaining in general to like a friend or a spouse or a family member.
That's true.
Or coworker.
That's true.
Totally two different apples and oranges.
Well, that's why I said everybody has to be like a part psychiatrist because you can use those tactics even with your personal relationships. Absolutely. In your close relationships with other people. You don't have to say, oh, I'd like to keep our relationship going. And, but you can, like the example of end with a positive note.
No.
Yes.
No.
Why
real
are you
world.
saying no?
Let's go real world. Real world. Okay. Remember when I used to work for Southwest Airlines? And I was in customer service.
Okay, here's what I remember about you working with... Let me just say.
Go ahead.
With you working with Southwest Airlines, and you have somebody coming up to you complaining about their bag being missing. Their very important bag to them.
Yes.
And you say, it'll pop up.
Yes.
Like, that is not going... In fact, that's one of your jokes.
Right.
Because you know how absurd that is, right? Like, that's not going to make them feel better.
Here's the thing. What I said, it'll pop up, that is the truth. It does pop up.
It does pop up, but...
They don't care. They don't care that it's going to pop up.
Right.
Because they're panicking. They are having a panic attack right now.
True that. But the customer service job is to
I'm not the one complaining. They are the one complaining. We're talking right now about complaining and how to stop complaining. And okay, so these experts, according to whatever this is over
She's got
here,
her hand over my computer.
The experts are saying, put it in an Oreo sandwich, put it in a positive, then a negative, then a positive, right? They're saying that. I'm here to tell you, in real world, nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
And the squeaky wheel gets the oil. That is the truth.
Okay, so what are you getting at?
So what I'm getting at is it really depends when it comes to real world. It depends on who the other person is and what their relationship to you is.
That's what I was saying earlier.
Ta-da!
That's what I was saying earlier. You have to be able to gauge. Like that, I just said that. Like with the approach of approaching someone like, well, now let's, like a soft, positive, soft response. That really annoys people who are revved up. So you have to be able to gauge that. That's exactly what I was saying.
Especially if the person who's revved up is your spouse or your sibling or your parent.
Yes.
You've been through the trenches with that person.
Yes.
Oh, life is hard,
In
Catherine.
fact, I have this whole other thing that says what not to do.
What does it say?
Well, okay. So you know how toxic it is when someone is really emotionally upset, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. They're stressed and they're
over it. Like I've seen it in the world, in my own world, right? I've seen it where they're way over the top. The situation shouldn't be that rough, but there it is.
Remember our jobs at
At the consignment store?
Yes. Oh, man.
And people would just lose their minds.
The little we had this little counter and window where people came up to us. It was like the Great Oz, we'll see you now. And we had to determine whether or not their goods, their merchandise was good enough to sell in the store. Okay. So it's very subjective. So we had to sometimes turn things down. Well, that enraged people.
Rejection is a terrible thing.
Yes.
Yes.
And I literally felt like a psychiatrist sometimes, or a bartender, didn't you? I've never been a bartender, but it felt like being one.
I would say that, yes, I felt like a psychiatrist in some cases, and I did feel like there was no win. There was no way to win.
In some cases, there weren't.
Right.
Because they felt victimized.
All right. Then I think that we can apply that to what we're talking about right here. There are some times in certain scenarios where there's no win. There's no win.
No. So, exactly. So, when there's no win, so the advice here, what not to do, this is in psychology today.
Yes.
First of all, you don't want to tell your partner or whomever to stop complaining.
Oh, yeah.
You don't want them to say, take a chill pill.
Oh, I did that today. Sorry.
What?
I said, take a breath.
Oh, yeah.
Whoops.
Calm down.
I didn't say calm down, but I might as well have. Catherine and I went for a walk, and she was starting to get all animated, and I was just like, whoa, take a breath, because she was communicating in a way that then I could feel my inner self.
Well, that's why I asked you, is it bothering you?
Yeah. And I said, well, kind of, because I could feel my heart racing as you were kind of going. Anyway.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh,
well,
it's hard to be human. It just is.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But I had this way before this walk we had. But it does say that when they're in the moment, at the moment, you don't want to push them to show them that they are losing perspective. 9 times out of 10, they probably know that. And this is true. And you don't want to say things like it's truly a first world problem, let's say, that's what you're saying. You can't say that at that moment. Your complaints or your whatever about the other person complaining or upset is likely to just further fuel their own stresses and make them feel judged and hurt and resulting in more irritation or negativity. So it says don't do that. Be supportive in the moment.
How do you be supportive?
Well, we'll get to that. That's actually addressed as well. But it does also say be supportive in the moment. Because of your own stress, you can say so. Follow your own advice too and find ways to chill. Don't offer the same advice over and over. So like if you're seeing a solution that other person can't see and they're not taking that advice, then don't, you could see that it's going nowhere. So just don't keep doing it, because it just frustrates both of you.
Yeah.
Don't make a big deal out of it, it says. You want to be supportive and sympathetic when your child, your partner, or friend complains, but don't turn it into a 3-hour drama either. Like, don't feed into it, basically, is what it's saying. Don't add fuel to the fire.
You're making it worse.
Yeah. But it does say, do listen. It's like first aid for the complaining person. It's very simple to just focus on listening, let the person vent, tell their story, resist the urge to give advice and solve the problem. It says once they've calmed down, your job for the moment is done. You know, just listen. But it says do circle back to it, though. So at some other point, circle back and talk about that problem that your whatever person. So I think that this is just for people that you're close with, because you're not going to circle back to it with a stranger. Hey, by the way, I saw you at the restaurant, at the coffee shop, and your coffee was muck.
Remember the mold in the shower?
Yeah, right.
I think we're over that now.
Yeah.
Here's some bleach.
Yeah. So there's a whole paragraph about that, but basically it's just saying, do go back to it and kind of talk about it. So
in general, when people communicate, we want to be heard.
Yeah.
And in order to be heard, the other person must listen, and not just listen to hear, but listen to understand.
Yeah.
So I guess to be heard equals we want to be understood.
For sure. Now that you're saying that, as I'm reading this, I'm thinking this I think is addressing the occasional complaint. I don't think that these do's and don'ts pertain necessarily to, well, I guess it could, to the constant complainer. I guess maybe it could, though, because you could, like it says, circle back to it at another time. So you could do that. But then at the same time, the other advice is to not with the person that's constantly complaining.
I got news for you. I kind of think that in general, when people are around other people who give off that vibe of negativity, it is kind of like a repellent, because I can't stand it. I can't stand to be around the stuff too long. It's similar to the example that I just gave earlier about the news. I can't take it. So I just turn it off or walk away or put on my headphones.
That's like, no, I've been for sure. And it also says do talk about the larger pattern of the complaining. So if this person has a steady complaining
diet,
then
they're wondering why they have no friends. Why am I alone? Wait, that's our next topic.
Yeah. If you notice they're constantly unhappy, your goal, if you want it to be, is to help them drill down and find out what might be driving that. But then it says do focus on the positive, be proactive and trying to change the climate that you're in with that person, and try to avoid secondary kind of behavior and negative pattern.
Don't fuel the fire.
Yeah.
Don't throw gas on the flames.
But if you are the complainer.
Oh, boy.
And you want to stop. So that's if the other person is complaining. If you're a complainer who wants to stop and you realize it and you see that it's bringing you down, if you realize that it's bringing other people down,
yeah.
Especially those who are close to you, then you drill into the source of your own state of affairs.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, I read a blog post about that. Like the source of complaining is rooted in bitterness.
I want to say I can't disagree with that at all, and I want to agree with that 100%. Of course it is. You don't get warm and fuzzy feelings with major complaining.
Right. So you're not complaining out of a root of contentment.
No.
You're not complaining out of a root of peace.
No.
You're not complaining out of a root of compassion.
Right.
You're complaining out of a root of bitterness, resentment, unforgiveness. That's where you're complaining. Yeah. Bitterness, resentment, unforgiveness.
And feeling victimized. So if you're listening and that's the way you feel, you've got to face that. You've got to admit that.
That's deep.
We just got all these solutions.
Now wait. When you think about those things, bitterness, resentment, unforgiveness. Okay. When you think about all those things, those are sins.
Yeah. Right.
Now, who is responsible for those sins? Is it the person whom you are not forgiving, or is it you?
It's you.
Is it the person whom you have bitterness toward, or is it you?
Right.
Is it the person whom you resent, or is it you?
Gotta face that.
Yeah, sorry.
Yes. So if you're feeling depressed, you're feeling trapped. I don't know if I said that earlier, but that's another reason why people complain. They feel trapped and they feel helpless.
They don't know what else to do. Okay, wait, stop. Okay, so you complain because you're in this season of angst or this emotional place. And you don't know what else to do. And so you have to spout it off somehow. Maybe it's also unjustified. So you're feeling like this isn't fair to me, right? Perhaps the answer is in going to the Lord and the only human person who was also God, who walked the earth, who lived a perfect life,
who suffered,
who died on a cross, a horrible death,
flogged,
unjust, was criticized, misunderstood.
Do you know, when I became a Christian, I didn't understand fully what flogged meant.
It's rough.
Until I looked it up. I thought it was kind of a gentle, no, not gentle. I felt it was a softer way to say whatever. But I didn't realize how brutal.
It's a torture.
Barbaric.
Right.
It was.
It's like a beating. Major.
Oh, barbaric.
Okay. So Jesus, who was fully man, fully God. So he fully understands what it's like to be one of us, a human. But yet he fully also understands what it's like to be God. And he never sinned. He was completely sinless. So let's look to him and let's go deeper than whatever the hurt is that's creating the unforgiveness, the bitterness, the resentment.
He was betrayed by his friends.
Who he loved.
Yes. So if you're in a position where you feel betrayed or you feel hurt by those who have wounded you,
your close inner circle.
Yeah, think about that. Those were his closest friends.
His brothers.
Yes.
Literally. He lived with them. He was their mentor. Right. They were his mentee. Yeah. And he was betrayed with a kiss. Judas kissed him.
Well, and a lot of us, a lot of people know about Judas, and you think, well, he was the ultimate betrayal, but the others betrayed him as well. Peter, who loved him
and denied him
3 times.
Yeah, and Catherine and Tracy, we put Jesus on the cross because it was our sin,
right,
that put him up there, and we have to acknowledge that. And when we get to that deep spiritual level of our biggest problem has been solved, and guess what? Jesus solved it on the cross. I think that it would behoove us as human beings to go to that place and look at, okay, whatever we're going through now, this is a temporary situation. And if we have an eternal perspective, is this going to matter in 10,000 years?
Right.
It absolutely will not.
Right. It may seem like it at the moment, at this present decade,
right,
whatever, but in terms of on the scale of eternity, it doesn't. And I'm saying this from feeling it myself.
We're human.
Feeling, the definite frustration,
of life.
Yeah.
We all feel that.
Yeah.
And Philippians, I forget what the reference is, but it's in Philippians. If you read, there's only like 4 chapters in Philippians, so it's nice and short. But if you go into Philippians, you'll read about the attitude of Christ and how, even though he was actually God, his attitude, he took on the nature of a servant.
Right. It's hard for us to wrap our brain around it.
Exactly.
We know this because we're Christians, but it's still hard to understand. How can he be fully human and fully God? I remember when I first was becoming a Christian, and I said, when someone pointed out to me, it was actually a work friend, and she pointed out to me that that Jesus was tortured and he sacrificed himself. And I said to her, but if he was God, it probably didn't hurt that much. Yeah. I couldn't understand it. But that's the reality of it, is that we're not capable. But we just have to believe that. That's where the faith comes in.
The other thing that really should be mentioned is humility. Because it was the humility of Jesus that allowed him to, as the scripture says in Philippians, he didn't even consider equality with God a notion to be grasped.
That's true.
But he made himself nothing, meaning he chose to make himself nothing.
Right. He came from his high. I feel like we're just preaching it. I had no idea we were going to go down this path.
It's the gospel message.
It is. He came
it's the good news
from his high majesty appointment. This is
heavenly.
This is absolutely eternal, heavenly.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. The highest.
Right.
Of highest.
He answered the call and he made himself nothing, taking on the very nature of a servant. He humbled himself and became obedient to death, even death on a cross.
Yeah.
That's the truth.
Wow.
Amen. What else you got over there, Catherine, with your psychology today?
I told myself a long time ago, I'm not using anything from them.
Oh, psychology?
Psychology Today.
Oh, yeah.
They had some kind of article I did not agree with in my infinite wisdom that I have.
Yeah, right.
And I was like, I'm not using them. But here I am. Yeah.
We're just trying to put one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
We really are.
Hey, listen, I don't know if I said this. If you're feeling depressed, trapped, not sure how to solve the problems, given up, not getting any positive feedback and support in your relationships, then seek some therapy. Therapy, yes. Yeah, and check into medication. I know we said that earlier.
Talk therapy plus medication and/or wonderful.
Yeah.
Actually, I think that talk therapy should accompany medication. I don't think it should just be medication.
I don't either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else over there? Are we done? I'm tired. I want to go to bed.
I want to go. Let's see. Oh, this might be our longest episode.
How long have we been talking?
An hour and 15 minutes.
Oh, my back hurts. I've been sitting here too long. Are we done? Can we go on to our
we got
inspirational
inspiration. Yeah.
All right. Well, you said you were going to read the scripture today.
Oh, yeah, I did.
Mm-hmm. There's 2 of them.
Okay. Well, we have Philippians, which we just mentioned, 2:14. Do everything without grumbling or arguing. And some versions say complaining. So arguing, complaining, same thing. And James 5:9 says, do not grumble against one another, brothers or sisters, or you will be judged. The judge, capital J, is standing at the door.
And insightful.
Very.
And what is our call to action?
Well, we want to direct people to the show notes because you have this wonderful processing tool method, and it was written by Claudia.
No, I wrote this.
I thought you said Claudia did.
No. Okay, let me explain. My mother-in-law, Claudia, who lives in Florida, we're in Chicago, she was a teacher forever for her whole career. And she used to use this tool for making decisions. And she taught it to her students. And I remember her teaching it to me and my kids. And it was sort of like a processing tool.
Yeah.
Like if I go this way, then I go that way. It was kind of like a flow chart. Okay. Well, I used that thought process to create this.
Oh, okay.
So this is all me, Catherine. I created this.
Clap.
Yes, thank you. Give credit where credit is due.
I shall.
It's called 20 Questions to Eliminate Complaining. And I'm going to put this in the show notes. Okay? And basically what you do is just answer these questions. So the first question is, what is the complaint? Like, what is it? Write it down. Okay? Who's involved? Who are the characters? Name all of the people that are involved in this complaining thing. And then on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being I've never seen them before, and 10 being I live with them, how important is this relationship? So then you give it a number. And basically it goes down through 20 questions.
Be honest with that too.
Yeah.
Like if you're mad and you say that this person is, one being the lowest, then that's not really the truth. Stop and really think about that.
Yeah. And I got to say that this 20 questions, I came up with it this morning. So I didn't do any real deep dive thinking about it. I just thought what would help if you're in the middle of a problem that you are complaining to other people about? What would help you process some information that could potentially help you to stop complaining about it?
Well, I read it.
Yeah.
And to me, it does seem like you had spent some time on it. The questions are good, and I think it's insightful, and I think it leads to a good look at oneself and also a way to solve it.
I only say that because I'm not a psychologist. I'm not Psychology Today. I'm just a person who's trying to put one foot in front of the other and survive. But I will put this in our show notes so that people can go and check it out. And perhaps you're going through something that you're complaining to other people about. If you go through these questions, it might help. It might not. But what do you got to lose?
Yeah.
Zero things. So try it.
That's our call to action.
All right. Next up. Our next episode is episode number 90.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about facing being alone.
Oh, my goodness.
I know. A heavy topic.
Yeah.
Whew.
Well, this one was too.
It was. But we got through it 4 hours later.
Yeah.
If you're still listening, it's a bit of a miracle. And you've been listening to the Life Happens, Laugh Anyway podcast. I'm still comedian Tracy DeGraff.
I'm still Catherine.
We'll see you next time.
Goodbye.